front of nearly 36,000 screaming hometown fans, Team Honda's defending Supercross champion Rick Johnson captured the checkered flag at San Diego's Jack Murphy Stadium. The victory, shown here on ESPN just 1 week ago, was Johnson's 4th of the season and tied the California native with the legendary Bob Hurricane Hanna for the most career Supercross wins. Tonight in Miami, Florida, Rick Johnson has vowed to do whatever it takes to secure career win number 28 and boost the season record to 5 wins in 5 events. Supercross action is coming up on ESPN. Stay tuned.
These were showcased in the Pacific North and the West Coast of sunny California. Now the tour moves to the Southeast and Florida's Gold Coast. We're in Miami at Joe Robbie Stadium, home of the Dolphins and Super Bowl 23. Hello, everyone. I'm Larry Myers for ESPN. All but one of the competitors on the Camel Supercross Tour are hoping the change in geography will result in a change of winners. That one is, of course, the winner of the first 4 series events, Rick Johnson of Team Honda. The professor of motocross, Gary Bailey, who will be helping me bring you the action this evening, is with Rick Johnson and the rider in the number 2 position in the standings, Jeff Stanton.
Larry, not only are Johnson and Stanton 1 and 2 in the series, they're also teammates, they're training mates, and for the last few months have been roommates. How do you guys maintain such a good relationship and race against each other?
So far, it hasn't been a problem. We respect each other as friends and as competitors. We both want to be number 1, but we can't see any problem with, after the race, even if we have a good fight, to go have dinner and be buddies, but on the track, we're rivals.
I agree 100%. I'm here to win races, and Rick's here to win races. While we're on the track, we're going to be enemies, but off the track, we can be friends. We can go out and have dinner together after the race is over. We can shake hands, and we can, talk about the race and talk about how much fun we had. But on the track, we're enemies, and I'm just going to do whatever it takes to win the race.
Okay, it's the last lap. You're going into the last corner. You win if you take Johnson out. Do you do it?
Yeah, you do it. Like I said, I'm out there to win races, so if it's the last lap and he's got the outside line and I got an inside line, he's going over to Bales, and I'm going to win the race.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I don't know if he's going to be that close to me. I don't plan on him being that close to take me out, so we'll just have to see what happens in the race. I'm going for 5 in a row.
Friends off the track and enemies on. Now that's an interesting scenario. Thank you, Gary. You're looking at the first of 3 heat races held earlier today. From each heat race, the top 5 riders transferred to the main event. Those riders outside the top 5 ride in a pair of semifinals from which the top 2 finishers transfer to the main. And that's the kind of action that greeted spectators in Miami. 5 riders involved in a first corner crash. Can you believe it? They all got up and walked away. At the front end of that pack, a pair of Suzuki riders were flat getting with the program. Florida's Ron Tishner aboard the number 11 machine held down the number 1 spot, while 1984 Supercross champ Johnny O'Mara from Simi Valley, California, occupied second. As you can see, the Joe Robbie track was constructed mostly of Florida sand. It was the kind of terrain that Tishner from Palm Harbor, Florida, grew up on, and there were many on hand in the pits and the stands that felt Tishner could very well lead Miami with his first ever Supercross win. Tishner did not argue that point. He easily outdistanced the rest of the field for the win in heat race number 1. Behind him, in a close battle for second, was teammate Johnny O'Mara, followed by Guy Cooper of Team Honda. The second heat turned out to be a Jeff Stanton benefit, although it did not start out that way. Stanton, number 7 in the early going, had his hands full with number 16, Yamaha's Doug DUBACH. Finally, Stanton managed to put his Honda in front of DUBACH and, with clear sailing ahead, left the field far behind. Enter Kawasaki's Jeff Matasevich. He figured if Stanton could take DUBACH's measure, then he too could turn the trick. DUBACH, however, did not see things quite that way. As quick as the Yamaha rider lost the advantage, he gained it back. Matasevich, though, still had a few tricks up his sleeve. When DUBACH relaxed in a series of mogul-like jumps, Matasevich pinned the throttle and, with momentum on his side, moved back into the number 2 position. From that point on, although DUBACH stayed close, the contest between the pair of riders was over. Matasevich held on to finish second. Meanwhile, Jeff Stanton had easily outdistanced the rest of the field. In fact, it was too easy. The Team Honda rider lost concentration. That resulted in one of those life's most embarrassing moments. Let's look at that again. Nothing damaged there, but a little bit of pride, but that goes a long, long way. The early leader of heat race number number 3 was Florida rider Jeff Frizz. Unfortunately for Frizz, series points leader Rick Johnson was also in the third heat, and Johnson had a point to make. The Team Honda rider had watched as Tishner mastered the track in heat number 1 and Stanton in heat number 2. Now they were watching him, and he wanted them to know that he had the track dialed and that at main event time he would be a force to be reckoned with. Once past Frizz, Johnson aimed at the checkered flag and never looked back. Meanwhile, Jeff Frizz had unwanted company. It was in the person of Mike LaRocco, a Yamaha rider from LaPorte, Indiana. LaRocco jumped a little further than Frizz, and LaRocco moved into the number 2 position. LaRocco was red hot and on the gas. Then it was time for number 111, all the way from France, Jean-Michel Bayle, the world 125 motocross champion. Bayle was in the States to improve his Supercross skills, and apparently he's learned his lessons well. Rick Johnson, meanwhile, was calm and cool as he circled the rough Florida sand track. And with a wave to the crowd, the El Cajon, California native took the win. Coming up, the main events in the 125 and 250 class. Stay with us. Some of the most talented riders in the country. It's the 125 main event. Now, this is the proving ground for young professional motocrossers aspiring to be full-fledged factory riders. The country is divided into 2 regions, East and West, for Supercross purposes. In earlier ESPN shows, we watched the Western region going at it. This is the first race for those riders in the East. And the 125 class is underway, and for at least one rider, it's just about over. That looks, it's rider number 36, Mike Jones. Just 1 year ago, Jones finished second overall in the Eastern point standing. He's going to have a rough way to go and a long way to go to make up for that loss in points this year. Meanwhile, your leader is rider number 22 out of Hesperia, California. He's aboard a Suzuki, Ty Davis. Number 45 is Damon Bradshaw. Bradshaw has to be considered one of the 3 race favorites. Bradshaw gets sideways coming off that jump and goes down. Now he's quickly up and picking up his bike, but he is going to lose ground. Let's look at that again. There's Bradshaw. He tries to turn in midair. He comes down off balance. He may have saved it had he not collided with that Kawasaki. That is going to hurt Bradshaw's drive toward the 125cc championship. Earlier in the year, on other ESPN shows that we have shown you, you have seen Bradshaw riding while the 125s were competing in the Western divisions. You've seen Bradshaw aboard a 250. He had made quite a name for himself, this youngster from Charlotte, North Carolina. He has got his work cut out for him today. Here he is. He's underway at the back of the pack. Bradshaw picked himself up. He was dead last. Let's see what he's made of. Meanwhile, Suzuki rider Ty Davis, rider number 22 from Hesperia, California, has nothing in front of him but the empty Joe Robbie track. He took the hole shot coming out of the first corner, and he's never looked back. He's putting a tremendous amount of distance between himself and rider number 360, that's Denny Stevenson from Omaha, Nebraska. Davis, meanwhile, has mastered this tough sand Joe Robbie Stadium track. Stevenson, holding down the number 2 position, has company now. Chris Coleman. Coleman aboard a Kawasaki. Rider number 554 has come from out of the pack to make his presence felt. Earlier this evening, Coleman had made the statement that being from upstate New York, that sand was unfamiliar to him. Now, what he meant was he had never ridden on a track made entirely of sand. Look at this, around the outside. He's at home in the sand right now. He got a good drive on the outside of Denny Stevenson, but Stevenson took Coleman all the way to the edge of the track, and Coleman had to back off the throttle. Now, if that pass attempt had been made late in the race, I rather doubt that Coleman would have backed out of it. I think he would have tried to bull his way past Stevenson. Both of the riders, second and third place, are aboard Kawasaki's. They are not, however, teammates. Coleman is a privateer from upstate New York, while Stevenson receives help from Kawasaki as a member of the Kawasaki Factory Support Program, Team Green. And now we have our eyes on Damon Bradshaw, rider number 45, and look at Bradshaw slash his way, cutting his way through traffic. On the opening lap, Bradshaw was running about 5th or 6th, and he crashed. He looked to be out of this race. I cannot believe what I'm seeing. Bradshaw has worked his way well up inside the top 10, and he is still going strong. Now, earlier we mentioned that Bradshaw had been riding 250. We asked this rising young superstar, what is the difference between the two on a Supercross track?
Well, you got to ride a lot harder just to do anything on a 125. A 250, you got a little bit of forgiving to it. But, you know, my bike's running really good. My mechanic, Mike Chavez, and Yamaha, and all the guys at Yamaha have helped me get my bike really strong, so I think it should be good.
Good indeed. Whether Bradshaw is aboard a 125 or a 250, there is no question in my mind that he'll handle it. Stay with us. We'll be back with the conclusion of the 125 right after this. This is coverage of the Camel Supercross Series. You're watching the 125 main event. That's young Damon Bradshaw has fallen again. Damon Bradshaw from Charlotte, North Carolina, aboard a Yamaha. Rider number 45 for the second time today has fallen. Watch the replay. Bradshaw in that left-hand turn just loses it, goes down in the sand. He's all right. He's quickly up. He's back on the racetrack, but he's got his work cut out for him one more time. Now, there's your leader, Ty Davis, rider number 22 on the yellow Suzuki. Davis had been getting signals from his pit area, his mechanic, that Bradshaw was coming. And indeed, Bradshaw had worked well up inside the top 5. Now Bradshaw is chasing in the number 3 position. He's chasing rider number 554, Chris Coleman, who is currently in second. That's the kind of charge that Bradshaw had made. Bradshaw fell, as I started to tell you, in the opening lap and found himself almost dead last. And now look at that. Bradshaw converts a couple of single jumps into one big double, and he takes over the number 2 position. Here it is again. Coleman simply rides through that jump. Bradshaw grabbed a handful of throttle, a lot of air, and he vaulted to the number 2 position. And now he's within striking distance of Ty Davis. Davis has got to be worried, and they've got to be worried in the Suzuki pit. Since the opening round, Davis has circulated this track at his own speed. He's not been challenged for that number 1 spot. He has used the lines that he wants to use on the track. Bradshaw, on the other hand, has had to ride full bore the entire distance. He has tried every line on the track. Bradshaw has the adrenaline flowing. Davis has to pick himself up now by the bootstrap and force himself to try new lines to go faster. An example of what I'm talking about is that double jump where Bradshaw passed Coleman, and here it is. Bradshaw is the only 125cc rider on the track to make that jump. Every other rider is riding through it. There is no question in my mind, with just a couple of laps to go, that if Ty Davis wants to hold down that number 1 spot, he is going to have to attack that double. If he doesn't, Bradshaw will take over that number 1 spot. He'll pass him there just like he passed Chris Coleman just a lap and a half ago. Now Bradshaw is approaching that spot where he fell just a few moments ago. Bradshaw, though, is not even thinking of that crash. It's the furthest thing from his mind. Right now, he can read the writing on Ty Davis' tire. Bradshaw wants this win. He's got the adrenaline flowing, and he's going after it full bore. A right-hand corner, a lap rider in between the two. Bradshaw quickly disposes of that rider and sets his sights once again on Ty Davis. Now comes the double, and Davis rides through it. Bradshaw jumps it. Look at this. Bradshaw double jumps at the end of it, and he vaulted in front of Ty Davis. Here it is. There's the double. Now watch Bradshaw. He's setting up for another huge jump. And that one carried Bradshaw into the number 1 spot. And here he is, less than a lap to go. The man of the hour being chased now by Ty Davis, rider number 22, the man that up until just 1/2 lap ago had led this entire race. Davis out of Hesperia, California, has got to be wondering what he did wrong. Here's that double jump, and it's Davis's first opportunity to see exactly what he did do wrong. And Bradshaw, with a brief wave to the crowd, takes the checkered flag. And here is Davis. He led every lap of this race except the one that counted. Here are the final results of the 125cc main. Bradshaw and Davis, of course, finished in the 1-2 position. Chris Coleman was 3rd. He was followed by Denny Stevenson, and rounding out the top 5, Mike KIEDROWSKI from Team Honda. A look at 6th through 10th shows Derek Rowe in the number 6 position. He's followed by, in 7th, Stevie Childress. 8th place, Bill Wallen. Then comes Barry Carson and Brian Carroll. Let's go to Gary Bailey, who was with Bradshaw.
Damon, no doubt, an excellent ride. 2 fall downs. I mean, what else could go wrong for you?
Well, I don't know. I'm glad my bike was running really good. After I got up that second time, I said, you know, I don't know if I have a chance. I ain't got a couple laps left. But I got up and my adrenaline was just flowing so good that I had my mind on Ty, and it really worked for me tonight. Everything went good. It couldn't have went any better. I like the win with dirt on my number plate. It makes me feel a lot better.
Great. Excellent ride.
Well, thanks a lot, Gary.
Next on ESPN, the 250 Supercross main event. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Miami, Florida at Joe Robbie Stadium for round 5 of the Camel Supercross Series, and this is the main event. It has all the earmarks of being a classic. Ron Tishner won the first heat. He's from Palm Harbor, Florida, a local favorite. In the second heat, it was the runner-up in the series point standings, Jeff Stanton from Sherwood, Michigan. The third heat was won by the series points leader and winner of the first 4 events, Rick Johnson from El Cajon, California. With that, the main event is underway. Out in front on a Honda is Larry Ward from Snohomish, Washington. Ward, rider number 971, is being followed closely by that pre-race favorite. And look at that triple jump. Ronnie Tishner, rider number 11. Now, that particular part of the racetrack has been a question mark all day long. You saw Tishner launch himself into that long triple. Most of the riders have tried it at one time or another. Most of the riders have come up short and have had their problems. Tishner, despite the rush, despite the rough landing area, continues to pound away at that triple, and he makes up time. Ronnie Tishner has taken over the number 1 spot in the early going of the main event at Miami, Florida. Larry Ward from Snohomish, Washington, a member of Team Honda, running in that number 2 position, has had many a battle with Ron Tishner, even though both riders are in the early stages of their career. As amateur riders, the two pounded each other from one end of the country to the other, and now they're doing it again as pros. That was a quick look at rider number 1, Rick Johnson. There he is on the right-hand side of your screen, moving through the pack. Now, Johnson did not get a particularly good hole shot. Johnson was back in about 7th or 8th place, but already he has started to move. The one thing Johnson cannot afford is to let the leaders get away from him. This Joe Robbie Stadium track, and we've said it many times, is extremely rough. It's extremely ruddy. Now, Jeff Stanton, rider number 7, who is in front of Johnson, and Ronnie Tishner, number 11, who is the leader, are both excellent sand riders. They're both extremely strong riders. And if they get a big lead, then Johnson will have his trouble catching up. Johnson is the current certain, and Stanton goes down. Jeff Stanton, rounding the corner at the end of the finish line, washed his front end out and went down. Let's go back and take another look at that incident. There's Stanton. He just gets a little bit sideways, and it looked almost as if he grabbed hold of the front brake. Now, Doug DUBACH used Stanton's rear wheel for traction. Hopefully, that will not damage Stanton's motorcycle. Meanwhile, there was Ronnie Tishner completing another of those triple jumps. And there's Doug DUBACH, and Rick Johnson goes around the outside. The leaderboard looks like this as we watch Rick Johnson circulate around this tough Miami track. Ronnie Tishner is in front. Larry Ward's running second. Jeff Matasevich is third, and Rick Johnson has worked all the way up to the number 4 position. So far in the 15-event Camel Supercross Series, there have been 4 races run. Rick Johnson has won all 4 of them. Just a week ago in San Diego, California, Rick Johnson tied Bob Hurricane Hanna as the winningest rider in Supercross history with 26 victories. A win here in Miami would put Rick Johnson, the Team Honda defending Supercross champ, all alone atop that victory list. And look at that, Jean-Michel Bayle, the French rider. Bayle just rocketed by Jeff Stanton on the inside. He is riding like a man possessed. Let's watch it again, and you'll see what I mean. Look at that. Now, that's the area of the racetrack that we looked at a little while ago that Damon Bradshaw was doing all of his antics in. So far in the 250 class, there have only been a couple of riders to duplicate Bradshaw's feat. And Ron Tishner has run off the track at the end of that long triple jump. Rick Johnson has taken over the number 1 spot in this 250cc main event. Right behind Tishner, that's Larry Ward, and coming on strong, Jean-Michel Bayle. The question now is, can Tishner put it back together? Stay with us for the conclusion of this main event on ESPN. Michel Bayle, rider number 111 from France, in the closing laps of this 250 main event of round 5 of the Camel Supercross Series, has just taken over the number 2 position. We have mentioned many times the severity of this racetrack. It's made out of sand, and that creates a whole new set of problems for riders and tire selection. Here's Gary Bailey with a look at that.
Larry, the racetrack here in Miami is considerably different than that of the first 4 rounds. Rather than being the hard packed and the clay, it's much softer, more loamy style. Not only are riding styles going to change, but the tires are going to have to be changed. And the right selection of tires could make the difference between first and second place in the main event. Obviously, there are different brands of tires, but the main thing the riders look for is the lug pattern that is there. If it's a very sandy racetrack, the riders will use the tire with the taller knobs spread a little bit further apart. If it's a medium racetrack, which has a little bit of loamy and hard pack, the riders will use a much more solid knob, knobs a little bit closer together. Then on the hard pack, the riders will go to a little bit closer spacing on the knobs, a little bit shorter knob, and usually a softer compound.
Ron Tishner, rider number 11 from Palm Harbor, Florida, on the yellow Suzuki, is being challenged for the number 3 position. And there goes Jeff Stanton around the outside of Tishner. Tishner is dropped back to the number 4 spot. Tishner led for the first half of this race. He crashed hard on a triple jump as Rick Johnson takes the white flag. Only 1 lap to go. As I started to say, Tishner crashed hard on that triple jump, and apparently it has taken its toll on the Suzuki rider. Tishner is not riding nearly as aggressive as he did in the early part of the moto. Rick Johnson, however, is on the final lap, and he can smell victory. For the series, it'll be victory number 5 with a wave to the crowd. For his career, it'll be victory number 27. He'll be atop the all-time victory list all by himself, having passed with this win the legendary Bob Hurricane Hanna. We'll take this opportunity to say thank you to Supersports Promotion and SRO Pace and the staff here at Joe Robbie Stadium. Supercross is sanctioned by the American Motorcycles Association, and our thanks to them for helping us make this telecast possible. Rick Johnson from El Cajon is just a couple of corners away from victory. Under that helmet, he has to be smiling big time. The checkered flag, and there is the winningest rider in the history of Supercross. Jean-Michel Bale finished second, followed by Jeff Stanton, Mike LaRocco, and 1984 Supercross champ Johnny O'Mara. In the number 6 position, it was Ron Tishner, the early race leader. He was followed by Sean Kalos, Todd DeHoop, Jason Upshaw, and Larry Ward. Now let's go to Gary Bailey.
Rick, 5 in a row, but I think more important than that, you are now the winningest rider in Supercross history. How does that make you feel?
Oh, it makes me feel unreal. You know, now my goal is just to get that number up as high as possible, so none of these young kids come up and take it.
The difficulty of this racetrack, the conditions, the ruts, was it any problem at all for you?
It wasn't a real bad problem for me. It was a big problem for a lot of other riders. Like I said, I ended up just fixing, you know, I was in front. Tishner went off the track, Ward crashed, everybody, Stanton fell, everybody kept falling. I just kept riding a strong pace and felt great.
Congratulations, Rick. Another excellent ride.
Thank you very much, Gary.
Rick Johnson is well atop the leaderboard with 125 points. 5 wins after 5 events. It's hard to improve on that. In 4th, Ron Tishner. Your heart has to go out to this young Suzuki rider. He led for most of the race before crashing near the end. To say the least, the action here at Joe Robbie Stadium was outstanding. Rick Johnson avoided the doghouse one more time, and Jeff Stanton, well, he'll be scratching fleas one more time. In the 125 class, a new star is born. Damon Bradshaw. What a ride that young man put in. As we leave you tonight, we'll go back to the series opener in Anaheim, California, and we'll follow Rick Johnson all the way through to Miami. For Gary Bailey, I'm Larry Myers saying so long until next week. We'll see you right here on ESPN.